A new chapter in the courtroom, the calm before the storm. The federal court, towering and monumental, represents power and authority, a place where the highest stakes are played out, and justice is both served and denied. Behind its imposing walls, decisions are made that can alter the course of history, yet beneath this polished veneer lurks a deep, unsettling truth. Whispers of corruption, bias, and an entrenched system that favors power over fairness echo within the halls. Few know the truth, and even fewer dare to confront it. It is here, in this very place, that a man with a dream of justice is about to step into the spotlight. Malik Carter, a figure of unshakable calm and immense strength, is not just another judge. He is the new chief judge of the federal court. But this is no ordinary appointment. It is the beginning of a battle against a system that has long allowed the scales of justice to tip toward those who already wield power. Malik Carter is about to change the course of history, but first, he must confront an institution that is far more than just broken. It is rotten to its core. Malik's rise to power is not one born of privilege or easy paths. Raised in a neighborhood where the fight for survival was often as fierce as the fight for equality, Malik grew up watching the injustices in the world around him. From a young age, he knew the sting of racial prejudice, and with it, the resolve to make things right. His journey through the legal world, rising from the lowest ranks to the highest position in the judicial system, was one of grit, perseverance, and a relentless pursuit of fairness. But this was no ordinary world, and the battle Malik had fought all his life was about to become much bigger than he ever imagined. As he prepares to assume the mantle of chief judge, Malik knows that he's walking into a storm. A system built on tradition and power is never eager to let go, especially when those in control have long been able to shield themselves from the consequences of their actions. Malik has heard the stories, whispers of a judicial system rife with corruption, of biased rulings, and of a powerful group of judges who hold the reins of control. But he's not here to listen to stories. He's here to witness it for himself, to see firsthand if the change he dreams of is even possible. Before Malik Carter steps into his new role, he chooses a methodical path, one of quiet observation. Days turn into weeks, and Malik sits in the back of courtrooms, blending into the background, unseen and unnoticed. He listens, observes, and takes note of the subtle biases at play. It isn't just the overt discrimination that catches his attention. It's the silent prejudices, the dismissive gestures, and the undercurrents of power that manipulate the course of justice without anyone daring to speak out. As he sits there watching one trial after another, the feeling grows in him. The system is broken, and it needs to be fixed. In one courtroom after another, Malik sees a disturbing pattern. He watches as defendants of color, especially black men and women, are treated with less respect, sentenced more harshly, and often disregarded in favor of their affluent, white counterparts. The legal system, which is meant to be a neutral force, has become a weapon used by the powerful to maintain their control. Judges, like Judge Richard Brooks, have become the arbiters of a biased system, using their positions not to serve justice but to perpetuate inequality. Malik can feel the weight of it, the crushing silence that fills the courtroom, the absence of fairness, and the overwhelming sense that the truth is often ignored in favor of those who can afford power. Malik's patience, however, is not born from weakness. As he sits quietly, observing the systemic corruption unfold before him, he gathers the evidence he needs, the proof that will ultimately enable him to make his move. He knows that change cannot come from silence, but he also understands that to act recklessly would be to sabotage the very cause he seeks to uphold. For now, he must wait. But Malik knows his time will come. He begins to focus on Judge Brooks, a man whose rulings have long been a source of controversy in the legal community. Judge Brooks is known for his conservative rulings, particularly when it comes to defendants of color. He's the type of judge who sees not people but statistics, backgrounds, and labels. In one case, a young black woman stands accused of stealing to survive. Her defense is simple. Poverty, a broken home, and the lack of opportunity led her to a desperate act. But Brooks doesn't see her as a woman struggling to survive. He sees her as a criminal, no different than any other in his courtroom. As the woman speaks, Trying to explain her situation, Judge Brooks interrupts her, his tone dismissive, his gaze cold. He sentences her to a long prison term with no hesitation, no empathy. The injustice of it hits Malik like a punch to the gut. He wants to stand up, to speak out, to defend her, but something stops him. He isn't just fighting for one person. He is fighting for an entire system. If he speaks out too soon, if he reveals himself too early, he risks becoming part of the problem. So he remains silent, but every passing moment deepens his resolve. He will not sit idly by while the system continues to crush the voices of the powerless. And so the stage is set. Malik Carter, Chief Judge of the federal court, has witnessed the ugly truth, the racism, the bias, the corruption. He knows that he cannot stand by any longer. This fight is no longer about one case or one judge. It is about confronting the entire system that allows men like Judge Brooks to thrive unchecked. The time for quiet observation has passed. Now Malik Carter will make his move, and nothing will ever be the same again. But as Malik prepares to face the challenges ahead, he also knows that the path to justice is never easy. It will require strength, courage, and the unwavering belief that change is not just possible, it is necessary. The world is watching, and Malik Carter is about to show them that justice will no longer be a silent observer in the courtroom. The battle for justice, confronting the corruption. As Malik Carter quietly observes, the weight of the corrupt system he has just stepped into grows heavier. He watches as the cases unfold, one after another, and with each passing day, the stark differences between the treatment of white defendants and defendants of color become more evident. Injustice is not a distant reality. It is a constant, palpable presence in the courtroom. But Malik's patience is his weapon. He knows that to dismantle this system, he must first understand it fully. He has spent years overcoming personal obstacles, but now he faces a much larger challenge, changing an entire institution that has been built on racial bias and corruption. The deepening of injustice. Malik's quiet observations in the back of the courtroom gradually become a study in the intricacies of power and racism. He watches as Judge Richard Brooks presides over case after case, delivering harsh sentences with a callous indifference to the lives of those in front of him. One case, in particular, stands out. A young black man, wrongfully accused of assault during a protest, is relentlessly interrogated and demeaned by Brooks. Malik feels the sharp sting of the injustice but remains silent, gathering the evidence he needs. The system is broken, yes, but it's also dangerous. Confronting it prematurely could lead to catastrophic consequences. And so Malik waits. Yet, despite the overwhelming evidence, Malik knows he cannot simply confront Brooks in a moment of anger. He needs to be strategic. He needs to be calm. He needs to understand the full extent of Brooks's influence. Brooks is not an isolated case. He represents a much larger network of power that has existed for years. Brooks has powerful allies in the judiciary and political circles, making him nearly untouchable. To bring him down, Malik will need more than just moral outrage. He will need to break through the wall of influence that protects men like Brooks. The frustration of silence. Malik's observations reach a boiling point when he watches yet another trial in which Brooks is involved. This time, the case involves a community activist, a black woman, who witnessed police brutality during a protest. As she stands on the witness stand, she passionately recounts her experiences, describing the violent treatment of peaceful protesters. But Judge Brooks doesn't even acknowledge her testimony. He doesn't meet her eyes, doesn't offer her the courtesy of respect. Instead, he dismisses her words with sarcasm and mockery. His question to her, "What exactly makes you an expert in civil rights, Miss Thompson?" is designed not to seek the truth but to diminish her, to strip her of her voice. Malik clenches his fists under the table, frustration coursing through his veins. He feels the anger building within him, not just for the woman on the stand but for all the others who have been denied a voice, for all the people who have been treated like they don't matter. Yet, Malik remains seated. He knows that to confront Brooks now would be to risk losing his credibility before he even starts. But how long can he stay silent? How long can he endure the pain of watching injustice unfold without acting? The thought gnaws at him, and every word that passes through Judge Brooks's lips feels like a personal assault. The system, as it is a mockery of justice. Malik's patience begins to wear thin, and he knows that something must change. Now, the moment of truth. The case Malik has been quietly observing finally reaches its tipping point. The witness, a young black man accused of assaulting a police officer during a protest, is subjected to a grueling cross-examination by Judge Brooks. It becomes clear that Brooks is not interested in the truth. He is not interested in fairness. He is interested in preserving the status quo. He questions the young man's motives, calling his actions into question, while giving no such scrutiny to the police officers who instigated the violence. Malik's heart pounds in his chest as the young man stands there, fighting for his right to be heard, fighting for justice. The entire room seems to fall into a state of suffocating silence. Every word Brooks speaks, every question he asks, makes it more evident that this isn't a trial, it's a performance. And the outcome has already been decided. Finally, Malik can take no more. He stands, his chair scraping against the floor with a sound that cuts through the room. The courtroom falls silent, all eyes now on Malik. His pulse quickens, his breath steady but heavy, as he walks forward. This isn't just about a single case anymore. This is about exposing the ugly truth about the system that has allowed men like Brooks to thrive without consequence. I must ask you to reconsider the way you're handling this trial, Your Honor, Malik says, his voice calm yet firm. His words break the silence, but Judge Brooks doesn't immediately respond. Instead, he continues to scribble on his notes, pretending Malik's challenge isn't important. But it is. The room can feel the shift in the air, the tension, the stakes, the challenge to the very foundation of this courtroom. Brooks, not used to being interrupted, finally looks up, his face twisted with irritation. "Who are you?" he sneers. "Another protester? A social justice warrior looking to stir up trouble? You have no place here." Malik doesn't flinch. He stands tall, his eyes locked onto Brooks's. "I'm not here to cause trouble, Judge. I'm here to ensure that justice is served, and right now you are failing in that regard. This young man deserves a fair hearing, not this mockery of a trial." The room is filled with whispers, uncertainty hanging in the air. But Malik's voice rings out, clear and resolute. He's not here to be intimidated. He's not here to back down. He's here to fight for something much bigger than just this one case. He's here to fight for justice. A personal attack, the breaking point. Judge Brooks, who had been unwavering in his dismissive attitude toward Malik, finally crosses the line. His expression turns cruel, his voice laced with mockery. "You think you can lecture me on the law, you little monkey?" He spits, his words full of racial contempt. "You think I'll listen to someone like you?" The courtroom freezes. Malik's heart races. He has been called many things in his life, but never like this. The word hits him hard, not just because of the hatred it carries, but because it reveals the deep, systemic racism that has shaped this courtroom. Brooks's words are a clear reflection of the prejudice that has infected the system, the same prejudice that Malik has spent his life fighting against. But Malik does not flinch. Instead, he steps forward, his voice filled with fire. "You've crossed a line, Judge. You do not get to call me that name. You do not get to dismiss me or anyone else because of our race, our background, or where we come from." For a moment, the world seems to stop. The room is still, and the weight of Malik's words hangs heavy in the air. Malik doesn't back down. He stands tall, unwavering in his conviction. This is not just about one judge's disrespect. This is about confronting an entire system built on injustice. You may think you have power here, but there's a bigger power at play now. The power of truth. The power of justice. And it's time for you to face that, Malik declares, his words a challenge to the entire system. The room is silent, the impact of Malik's words rippling through the courtroom. Judge Brooks, once so sure of his authority, now looks shaken. Malik has exposed the cracks in the system, and the walls are starting to crumble. This is no longer just about a single case. It is about confronting the corruption and bias that have held this system hostage for far too long. The shifting power. Malik's stand doesn't end with words alone. He has a plan. He will not let this moment pass without ensuring that the truth is brought to light. He knows the fight won't be easy. Brooks's allies are deep within the system, but Malik is not afraid. He is ready to confront the system, ready to take on the powers that have long protected men like Judge Brooks. As Malik begins his investigation into Brooks's history, he uncovers a web of corruption and racial bias that stretches back decades. The truth is undeniable, and with it, Malik prepares to expose the entire network of power that has allowed such injustices to persist. The courtroom is no longer just a place for legal proceedings. It is a battleground for justice, for equality, for the voices that have long been silenced. Malik's journey is far from over, but the moment of truth has arrived. The question is no longer whether change is possible, it is whether the system will allow it. The turning point, confronting the system and taking action. As Malik Carter continues his journey to confront the corrupt judicial system, the weight of the task ahead becomes clearer. His patience, strategy, and resolve will be put to the ultimate test. But as the moments continue to unfold, one thing is certain. This fight for justice is about far more than just one man. It is about confronting an entire institution. The courtroom, once a place for legal proceedings, has now become a battleground where the fate of fairness hangs in the balance. It is a pivotal time for change, and Malik is determined to seize this moment. The investigation begins, uncovering the truth. After Malik's public confrontation with Judge Brooks, the system begins to feel the ripples of change. But for Malik, words alone are not enough. It's time to go further, to dig deeper into the very core of the corruption. He orders an investigation into Brooks's career, determined to uncover the full extent of the judge's discriminatory practices. His team works tirelessly, combing through case files, testimonies, and court rulings. The more they dig, the more evidence piles up. Evidence of racial bias in Brooks's decisions, of the unjust sentences handed down to marginalized groups, particularly people of color. One case stands out in particular. Brooks's harsh sentencing of a young black man who was caught with a small amount of marijuana. Despite the nonviolent nature of the crime, Brooks focused not on the man's actions but on his race and troubled past, making an example out of him. Malik sees this as a clear indication of the systemic issues at play in the courtroom. The investigation does not stop there. Malik's team uncovers a chilling pattern of decisions that consistently favor white defendants while penalizing black defendants. In one case, a white defendant was given a light sentence for a much more serious crime, while a black defendant was sentenced to years in prison for a minor offense. This uneven application of justice, this manipulation of the law, becomes a glaring symbol of the broken system that Malik is now forced to confront head-on. Breaking the silence, the power of accountability. As the investigation intensifies, Malik's resolve grows stronger. He knows that to expose the full extent of the corruption, he will need more than just proof. He needs to rally support, to bring others into the fold, and to make sure that the voices of those who have been silenced for far too long are finally heard. His colleagues, many of whom have quietly observed the injustices for years, begin to speak out. Some offer testimony, others share their own concerns, and a few former allies of Brooks come forward, now willing to admit the systemic issues they've allowed to fester under their watch. The support grows, but so does the resistance. Powerful figures within the judicial system, many who have benefited from Brooks's practices, begin to push back. They see Malik as a threat, a disruption to their power and control. The establishment fights back fiercely, using every tool at its disposal to undermine his efforts. But Malik refuses to be intimidated. He has always known that true justice comes with a price, and he is willing to pay it. He continues to press on, gathering evidence, speaking to witnesses, and making his case known to the world. The momentum is building, and the public is starting to take notice. Protests erupt outside the courthouse, with people demanding justice for those wronged by the biased rulings of judges like Brooks. Signs that read "Justice for All" and "End Racial Bias in the Court" flood the streets, a powerful show of solidarity from communities who have long been disenfranchised. the breakthrough, public pressure, and unveiling the truth. The case takes a turn when the media picks up the story of Malik's confrontation with Judge Brooks. News outlets begin reporting on the incident, and the public's reaction is swift. For the first time, people are talking about the systemic racism and corruption within the judicial system. Malik's voice, once a quiet whisper in the background, is now a beacon of hope for those who have long suffered under the weight of injustice. The pressure mounts as Malik continues to expose the truth. The Black community rallies behind him, offering their support for the investigation. They see in him not just a judge, but a symbol of hope, a reminder that change is possible, that their voices matter, and that the system can be made to work for them, too. The support from the public fuels Malik's determination, and as the evidence against Brooks continues to mount, it becomes clear that the days of impunity for corrupt judges are coming to an end. But the fight is far from over. The political forces that have long supported Brooks begin to push back even harder. They try to discredit Malik, undermining his efforts and attempting to shield Brooks from accountability. But Malik's unwavering commitment to justice is stronger than their resistance. He knows that if he gives up now, if he allows the system to continue as it is, he will be complicit in the very corruption he's fighting against. The moment of truth, holding Brooks accountable. Finally, after weeks of investigation and mounting public pressure, the truth comes crashing down. Judge Brooks, once a powerful figure in the judicial system, is exposed for his role in perpetuating racial bias and corruption. His career, built on unjust rulings and protected by powerful allies, is now unraveling. The evidence of his wrongdoing is undeniable, and the world is watching as the system he once controlled begins to crumble. In a televised announcement, Malik stands before the cameras, his voice steady and resolute. "Today, we take a step toward justice," he declares. "Judge Brooks's actions have no place in our courts. They were a violation of the very principles we stand for. And I want to be clear, this is just the beginning." Malik's words send shockwaves through the judicial community and beyond. The dismissal of Brooks is not just a victory for Malik. It is a victory for everyone who has ever been wronged by a system that was supposed to protect them. It is a victory for the oppressed, the marginalized, and the unheard. It is a victory for justice, a new era for the judiciary reform and rebuilding. With Brooks gone, Malik begins to implement the reforms he promised. New training programs are introduced for all judges, focusing on racial justice, ethics, and sensitivity. These programs are designed not just to teach the law but to foster empathy, to recognize the humanity behind the cases, and to understand the impact of bias before it can poison decisions. It is the beginning of a new era for the judiciary, one that values fairness over tradition and truth over power. The public's reaction to the reforms is overwhelmingly positive. People feel empowered, and the Black community, in particular, begins to see the system not as something to fear but as something that can be changed. Malik's leadership is a beacon of hope in a world that too often seems devoid of it. He has shown them that, with determination and perseverance, real change is possible. But Malik knows that the battle is far from over. The system is vast, and corruption runs deep. He will continue to fight for justice, for fairness, and for a future where the law is truly blind, where everyone, regardless of race or background, is treated equally. His journey is only just beginning, and the road ahead will be long and difficult. But for the first time, Malik feels that the tide is beginning to turn, and that the future of justice is in capable hands. A new era of justice. The fight for justice is never easy. It is a battle fought in the courts, in the streets, and in the hearts of the people. Malik Carter's journey shows us that change is possible, but it requires more than just a desire for fairness. It requires action, courage, and the willingness to confront the ugly truths that hide beneath the surface. By standing up to Judge Brooks and the corrupt system he represented, Malik not only exposed one man's wrongdoing, but he also ignited a movement for systemic change. The journey toward justice is ongoing, and while Malik's victory is an important one, it is only the beginning. The fight for equality, for fairness, and for a judiciary that serves all people, regardless of race or background, must continue. Malik Carter's legacy will not just be as a judge, but as a symbol of hope, a reminder that justice can prevail in the face of adversity. And as he looks out across the courtroom, he knows that the future is brighter for everyone. If you found Malik Carter's journey inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and comment below to spread the message of justice and equality. Your support helps us keep telling stories that matter and challenge the systems that need change. If you want to be part of this movement for fairness, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of our powerful stories. Remember, the fight for justice is not over, and together, we can make a real difference. Thank you for being part of this journey with us.